A famous Japanese architect was designing a minimalist home. His Western client kept asking, "Can we add more here? What about filling this wall? This room feels empty." And the architect finally said, "You hired me for what I put in the design, but my mastery is in what I leave out." The empty space isn't a lack of something, it's the presence of possibility. This is Ma, the Japanese concept that emptiness is not nothing, it's everything. In music, the rests between notes create the melody. In language, the pauses between words create meaning. In design, the empty space creates beauty. In life, the gaps between actions create power. But Western culture treats empty space as wasted space, something to fill, to optimize, to maximize. And in doing so, we've created lives that are full of everything, but feel empty of meaning. You're overwhelmed right now, aren't you? Your life is a constant stream of activity with no pause, no breathing room, no space between one thing and the next. Your calendar is packed, back-to-back meetings, appointments, commitments. Your mind is cluttered with endless to-do lists that never get shorter. You move from task to task, meeting to meeting, notification to notification, never stopping, never resting, never just being. And you think this is productivity, this is success, this is what it takes to make it in the modern world. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you just sat? Not meditating, not planning, not consuming content, just sitting in empty space. When was the last time you had a conversation where comfortable silence existed, where you didn't rush to fill every gap with words? When was the last time you looked at your calendar and saw white space, margin, room to breathe? I'm guessing it's been a while, maybe years, maybe you can't even remember. And here's what that constant fullness is creating. You're exhausted, burnt out, running on empty while somehow always running. Despite all this activity, all this busyness, all this doing, you don't feel like you're getting anywhere meaningful. You're productive but not fulfilled, active but not present, busy but not happy. There's a hollowness underneath all the motion, a sense that something essential is missing, even though your life is completely full. Western productivity culture told you the solution is to maximize every moment, fill every gap, eliminate wasted time, multitask, batch, optimize, always be producing, always be doing, always be on. But here's the truth that no one wants to tell you. That advice is what's destroying you. The optimization is the problem. The constant activity is creating the emptiness you feel. The filled calendar is the prison, not the path to freedom. The Japanese have practiced the opposite for over 1,000 years. They call it Ma. It's written with a character that means interval, space, pause, gap. The space between things. And it's not just a concept, it's a way of life, a fundamental principle that shows up everywhere in Japanese culture. In their art, their architecture, their music, their communication, their entire approach to existence. They understand something we've completely forgotten, that power doesn't come from filling every moment, it comes from knowing when to pause. Let me tell you a story. There was once a Western businessman who traveled to Kyoto to learn about Japanese business culture. He was successful by Western standards, back-to-back meetings, fully optimized schedule, every moment productive, no wasted time. His Japanese host invited him to a traditional tea ceremony. The businessman expected a quick demonstration, show him the technique, explain the process, check it off the list, move on to the next thing. But the ceremony didn't work that way. The tea master was an elderly man who had practiced this art for 60 years. He moved slowly, deliberately. He heated the water with intention. He arranged the utensils with care. He prepared the tea with complete attention. Each movement was finished before the next began. There was no rushing, no multitasking, no checking his phone or thinking about what came next, just complete presence with each action. And then, after pouring the tea into the simple ceramic bowls, the master did something that made the businessman deeply uncomfortable. He paused. Complete silence. 30 full seconds of just sitting there. No one spoke, no one moved.
The businessman shifted in his seat. He checked his watch subtly. He wondered if something was wrong, if they were waiting for something. The silence felt awkward, heavy, wrong, like something should be happening but wasn't. After what felt like an eternity, the master finally spoke. His voice was quiet, gentle. "Did you notice the pause?" he asked. The businessman nodded, still confused. "I did," he admitted. "I wasn't sure if something was wrong." The master smiled, and there was such warmth in that smile. "Nothing was wrong," he said. "Everything was right." That pause, we call it ma, the space between actions. Most people fear it. They fill it with words, with movement, with noise, with anything to avoid the discomfort of emptiness. But the pause is where the tea ceremony actually lives, not in the pouring, in the space after. That's where you taste, where you appreciate what just happened, instead of immediately rushing to what comes next.
The businessman sat with this, and slowly something dawned on him. His entire life was pouring tea and immediately pouring more tea and then more tea after that, never pausing to actually taste any of it, never creating space to experience what he was doing, always filling the next moment before the current one had even finished, always moving, always doing, always on to the next thing. And in all that constant motion, he had forgotten how to actually be present for any of it. The master continued, and his words were like arrows finding their mark. "In the West, you have a saying, time is money. You fill every second with activity because empty time feels like waste. But in Japan, we understand something different. The space between seconds is where life actually happens. Ma is not emptiness, it's the container that holds meaning. Like this tea bowl." He held up the simple ceramic cup. "The power of this bowl isn't in the clay. The clay is just the walls. The real power is in the empty space inside that holds the tea. Without that emptiness, the bowl is useless. It's just a lump of clay. The emptiness is what gives it purpose. Your life is exactly the same. If you fill every moment, if there's no space, no pause, no ma, then there's nowhere for anything meaningful to land. You're so full of activity that there's no room left for actual life." The businessman returned to the West changed, not because he learned a new productivity technique, not because he got a framework or a system or a hack, but because he learned something far more profound. He learned to pause, to create ma deliberately, intentionally, to wield empty space as his greatest tool, and his life transformed, not by adding more, by removing, by creating space where there had been only constant motion. So what is ma exactly, and how do you create it in a Western life that seems designed to eliminate every gap, every pause, every moment of stillness? Let me break this down for you, because this understanding can change everything. Ma appears in every aspect of Japanese culture, and each manifestation teaches us something different about the power of empty space. Let's start with communication, because this is where most of us can immediately feel the difference. Watch any truly great speaker. I mean someone who commands a room, whose words land with real impact. Barack Obama, Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King Jr. They all do the same thing, and most people never consciously notice it. They pause. Not accidentally, not because they forgot what to say, but strategically, deliberately, with complete intention. They'll say something important, and then they stop. 3 full seconds of absolute silence. And in that silence, in that ma, the words land. The audience absorbs what was said. The meaning sinks in deep instead of just bouncing off the surface. Now compare that to amateur speakers, to most of us in everyday conversation. We fill every gap. We're terrified of silence, so we say, like, you know. We rush from sentence to sentence without any pause. We rush over the ends of other people's sentences because the silence feels unbearable. We're filling the ma, and in doing so, we lose all power. Our words become noise instead of music. The 3-second pause is ma in communication, and here's exactly how it works. You make your point, you say something that matters, and then you stop, completely, for 3 full seconds. You count them silently. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
Most people physically cannot do this. It feels like an eternity. Every instinct screams to fill that gap, to keep talking, to explain more, to elaborate. But to the listener, it doesn't feel long at all. It feels like emphasis, like weight, like that was important enough to let it breathe. In traditional Japanese conversation, pauses are natural, expected, valued. A question might be asked, and there could be 5 or even 10 seconds of silence before the answer comes. Not because the person doesn't know what to say, but because they're actually considering, reflecting, thinking deeply before speaking. They're creating space for wisdom to emerge instead of just reactive speech. But in Western culture, we've been trained to interpret silence as awkward, as uncomfortable, as something wrong that needs to be fixed immediately. We rush to fill it with anything, even meaningless words, just to avoid the discomfort of that empty space. And we lose the depth that comes from actually thinking before we speak. We lose the power that comes from letting our words sit in silence where they can actually be heard. Here's what I want you to try. In your next important conversation, after you say something significant, pause. 3 full seconds. Don't explain further, don't elaborate, don't fill the space with more words. Just wait. Let the exist. And watch what happens. The other person leans in slightly. Their expression changes as they actually process what you said. They hear you in a way they wouldn't have if you just kept talking. The pause gives your words weight, importance, impact. It transforms communication from noise into music.
Now let's talk about and creativity, because this is where the concept becomes almost magical. Here's what kills creativity for most people: the constant need to be productive, to always be creating, to fill every moment with output. We think that's how creative work happens, through constant doing, but that's completely backwards. Creativity doesn't come from constant activity. It comes from the space between activity. Artists have a term for this. They call it the fertile void. It's that empty time when you're not actively creating, when you're just staring at the blank canvas, or walking without purpose, or sitting with a problem without trying to solve it, or doing what looks like nothing, but that nothing is where ideas actually emerge, where insights arrive, where unexpected connections form in your subconscious. The Japanese concept of explains exactly why this works. Your conscious mind, the part that's thinking and planning and doing, it needs empty space to access your subconscious. When you're constantly filling every moment with activity, your conscious mind dominates. It's loud, it's busy, it's very productive, but it's not creative. Real creativity lives in your subconscious, and your subconscious only speaks in the gaps, in the pauses, in the in the empty space between all you're doing. This is why your best ideas come in the shower, or while you're walking, or right before you fall asleep, not when you're sitting at your desk trying to force them out. Because in those moments, you've accidentally created empty space where nothing specific is happening, and creativity floods in to fill it, like water finding a crack. Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of Hamilton, has talked about this. He said his best ideas come during long, boring walks, not during brainstorming sessions, not during productive work time, during walks where nothing is happening, where his mind is allowed to wander, where there's Stephen King said something similar. His best plotting happens while driving long distances, mind drifting, nothing specific occurring. That's at work, the fertile void creating. But we fear this so deeply. We think, I should be working, I should be producing, I should be doing something. And in that should, in that constant pressure to fill every moment with activity, we kill the very thing we're trying to create. Because creativity doesn't come from addition, it comes from subtraction, from creating enough emptiness that new things have room to emerge. I want you to try something. Schedule what I call do-nothing time. 30 minutes where you sit without a task, without your phone, without an objective, without trying to be productive or creative or anything. Just empty space. Your productivity-trained mind will absolutely scream at you. You'll feel lazy, wasteful, guilty, unproductive, like you're doing something wrong. But I want you to push through that discomfort and just sit in the ma. And then watch what happens over the next hours and days. Ideas you weren't trying to have, solutions to problems you weren't actively working on, creative insights that seemed to come from nowhere. That's not nowhere. That's ma working. The fertile void creating, the empty space allowing your subconscious to finally speak. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you. Ma in relationships. This sounds counterintuitive at first. Space creates closeness? How can distance create intimacy? How can silence create connection? But it's profoundly true. The healthiest relationships have ma built into them. Not constant contact, not filling every silence, but comfortable, empty space between people. In Western relationships, especially romantic ones, we fear space like it's a threat. We think if we're not always together, always talking, always texting, always connected, then the relationship must be weak. So we fill every gap. We text constantly throughout the day. We call multiple times. We fill silences with words even when we have nothing important to say. And we call this intimacy, this closeness, this connection. But it's not intimacy. It's enmeshment. It's anxiety. It's trying to fill an internal void with external constant contact. Real intimacy actually requires ma. It requires space where each person can exist as themselves. Silence where you can actually hear each other instead of just hearing your own voice constantly. Distance that creates longing and appreciation instead of taking each other for granted. The Japanese understand this deeply. There's a specific concept in martial arts and relationships called ma-ai. It literally means the right distance. Not too close that you lose yourself, not too far that you lose connection, but the right amount of space between that allows both people to breathe, to exist independently, and therefore to choose each other rather than desperately need each other. Think about your closest relationships, the ones that feel most real and deep. The best conversations you've had with these people often included long pauses, didn't they? Comfortable silence where you could just be together without needing to fill every second with words. You can sit with someone in complete quiet and it feels full, not empty, rich, not awkward. That's ma. That's the space that actually creates intimacy. Compare that to a first date or a conversation with someone you don't know well. Silence feels terrible, awkward, heavy. Everyone rushes to fill it with anything, questions, comments, observations about the weather, anything to avoid that uncomfortable gap. That's the absence of ma, the fear of empty space. And ironically, that fear prevents real connection from forming. Because real connection happens in the comfortable silences, not in the constant talking. I want you to practice something in your relationships. Deliberately create space, not distance, ma. In conversations, when there's a pause, don't immediately rush to fill it. Let there be a gap. Let the other person think. Let yourself think. Let silence exist without treating it like an emergency that needs to be fixed. In your daily interactions with partners or close friends, create breathing room. Not because you care less, but because you're secure enough in the connection that you don't need constant activity to prove it exists. And now we come to perhaps the most practical application of ma, your schedule, your calendar, your daily life. Look at your calendar right now. I mean, really look at it. Is it packed? Back-to-back meetings, every hour accounted for? No gaps? That's the Western ideal, isn't it? Maximum productivity, full utilization, every moment optimized. But it's a trap, a prison. Because when your calendar is completely full, there's no room for anything real to happen. The unexpected conversation that could change your perspective can't happen. No time for it. The spontaneous opportunity that could open a new door can't take it. You're already booked.
The moment of insight that could solve a problem you've been struggling with? Can't explore it. Next meeting is starting in 30 seconds. The serendipitous encounter that could become a meaningful connection? You had to rush past because you were already late to the next thing. Japanese Ma philosophy says, build space into your schedule, deliberately, intentionally, not as a luxury when you can afford it, as a strategic necessity. They call this yohaku no bi, the beauty of empty space, in schedules, in calendars, in life itself.
Here's what this actually looks like in practice. Between meetings, you build in 15-minute buffers, not to catch up on email, not to be productive with the gap, just space, nothing scheduled. Between tasks in your day, you pause. You don't immediately jump to the next item on your list. You let there be ma, breathing room, a moment where nothing specific is happening. And here's what happens in that space that seems like nothing. You process what just occurred. Your mind actually has a chance to think about the meeting you just finished instead of already being in the next one. You breathe. You notice how you're feeling in your body. You allow insights from the last activity to surface instead of drowning them out with the next activity. You give your nervous system a chance to regulate instead of staying in constant activation mode from morning until you collapse at night. Bill Gates is famous for taking what he calls think weeks, entire weeks with no meetings, no calls, no scheduled activities, just reading and thinking. That's extreme ma. Most of us can't do that, but you can start small. 1 hour per week, no tasks, no agenda, no productivity goal, just space, just ma. And you protect it like it's the most important meeting on your calendar, because it is. When someone asks for that time, you say no, not because you have something more important scheduled, but because the ma itself is more valuable than whatever they want to fill it with. The empty space is the point, not a gap waiting to be filled. Let me tell you what happened to that architect's client, the one from the beginning. He reluctantly agreed to the minimalist design with all that empty space. The house was built with rooms that had almost nothing in them. Blank walls, areas with no furniture, space that seemed to serve no purpose. And when he moved in, something unexpected happened. The empty rooms became the most used spaces in the entire house. The room with nothing in it became where he sat in the morning with his coffee, just thinking, where he went after overwhelming days to find clarity, where his mind could finally settle because there was nothing demanding his attention. The blank wall became a canvas where light created art through shadows as the sun moved across the sky throughout the day. The space that had seemed empty was actually full of potential, full of peace, full of ma. His friends would visit, and at first they'd be confused. Why is this room empty? Didn't you run out of money to furnish it? But after sitting in it for even just a few minutes, something shifted in them. They understood. The emptiness wasn't a lack of something. It was a presence of something. The presence of space itself, of breath, of possibility, of room for thoughts and feelings and experiences that get crowded out when every inch is filled. This is ma in physical space, but it applies to everything: your schedule, your communication, your creativity, your relationships, your entire approach to life. The power isn't in filling every gap, it's in knowing when to leave it empty, when to create space deliberately, when to let ma exist. So let me give you 4 specific practices you can start today. 4 ways to build ma into your life that will change how everything feels. First, morning ma. Before you check your phone, before you start your to-do list, before you begin the endless doing that will fill your day, create 60 seconds of ma. Just sit, not meditating with a technique, not thinking about your day, not planning or preparing, just sitting in empty space for 1 minute. Your mind will protest loudly. It will say, this is wasting time. You should be productive. You have so much to do. Let it protest. Sit anyway. This sets the tone for your entire day. It says, I control my life. My life doesn't control me. I can create space. I am not a slave to constant activity. Do this every single morning, 60 seconds. It will change how your whole day feels. Second, communication ma. Pick one conversation today. In that conversation, whenever you make an important point, practice the 3-second pause. Say what you need to say, then stop completely. Count silently. 1, 2, 3. Then continue. It will feel awkward at first, too long, wrong, like you're doing something weird.
But watch what happens. The other person actually hears you. Your words land with weight instead of bouncing off. You create emphasis without raising your voice or adding more words. The space gives your communication power. Do this regularly, and people will start listening to you differently. They'll lean in, they'll quote you later, they'll remember what you said because you gave it space to be received instead of drowning it in more words.
Third, creative ma. Once a day, or at minimum once a week, take a walk with no destination. No podcast in your ears, no audiobook, no phone call, no goal or objective. Just walking for 15 to 30 minutes. Your productivity mind will absolutely scream that this is wasted time. Ignore it completely. This is when ideas come, when solutions arrive, when creativity emerges. Not because you're trying to force it, but because you created ma, empty space, the fertile void, and your subconscious finally has room to speak. Carry a small notebook with you, not to force ideas, but to capture them when they arrive. And they will arrive, just not on command, only in the space. Fourth, schedule ma. Look at next week's calendar right now. Find 1 hour, block it out. Label it ma, or space, or do nothing hour, or whatever makes sense to you. And when that hour arrives, honor it. Don't fill it with tasks you've been meaning to get to. Don't quickly check email. Don't be productive with it. Sit with empty space. Maybe you stare out a window. Maybe you sit in a park. Maybe you just sit in a quiet room. No phone, no book, no task. Just being in empty space. This will feel extremely uncomfortable at first. Wasteful, unproductive, wrong. Your entire cultural conditioning is screaming against it. Every message you've ever received about success and achievement is telling you this is lazy. But this hour is your rebellion. Your declaration that you're not a productivity machine, you're a human being. And human beings need ma like they need air. After a few weeks of protecting this empty hour, you'll notice something remarkable. It becomes the most valuable hour of your week, not despite its emptiness, because of it. Because that's the hour where you actually think, where insights surface, where you reconnect with what actually matters, instead of just doing what's urgent. The empty hour creates more value than the packed hours ever could. So let's come back to where we started. You came into this video overwhelmed, your life packed with constant activity, every moment filled, no breathing room, no pause between one thing and the next. And you thought this was the path, this was productivity, this was success, this was what it takes to make it in the modern world. But now you know something different. You know ma, the Japanese philosophy of empty space. You learned that the architect's mastery isn't in what he adds, it's in what he leaves out. That the tea ceremony's power isn't in the pouring, it's in the pause after. That the bowl's value isn't in the clay, it's in the empty space inside that holds the tea. You learned how ma creates power in different areas of your life. In communication, the 3-second pause makes your words land with real impact instead of just bouncing off. In creativity, the fertile void is where ideas actually emerge when you stop forcing them. In relationships, the comfortable space between creates real intimacy instead of anxious enmeshment. In your schedule, the margin is where life actually happens, where serendipity has room, where you can finally breathe. You learned that Western culture's obsession with filling every moment is what's creating your burnout. The optimization is the problem. The constant activity is the exhaustion. The packed calendar is the prison. And ma, the deliberate creation of empty space, is the key that unlocks your freedom. Most importantly, you learned the practices. The 60-second morning pause that sets your tone. The 3-second communication pause that gives your words weight. The purposeless walk that creates the fertile void. The weekly empty hour that becomes your most valuable time. These aren't luxuries for when you finally have space. They're necessities for sustainable high performance, for creativity, for clarity, for sanity, for actually living instead of just constantly doing. So here's what I want you to remember. Especially when the productivity guilt whispers that you're wasting time, especially when the culture around you says fill every moment, especially when you feel the pull to optimize and maximize and eliminate every gap. Remember this, empty space is not nothing, it is everything. The pause is where power lives, the gap is where meaning forms, the silence is where you actually hear what matters. The space in your schedule is where real life happens instead of just scheduled life.
You're not afraid of Ma anymore. You wield it deliberately. You create emptiness intentionally, not as waste, but as wisdom. Because you understand now, the value of the tea bowl isn't in the clay, it's in the empty space inside that holds the tea. Your life is exactly the same. If you fill every moment, there's no space to hold anything meaningful. But when you create Ma, when you allow emptiness, suddenly there's room for everything you've been seeking in all that constant activity.
So today, right now, you pause, you create space, you allow Ma, and in that emptiness, you find what you've been looking for all along. Not in the doing, in the being, not in the filling, in the allowing, not in the constant motion, in the deliberate stillness. If this shifted how you see empty space, if you're ready to stop filling every moment and start creating Ma, hit that like button. It tells me this ancient wisdom still speaks to our overscheduled, overwhelming modern world. And if you want more of this, more Japanese philosophy that gives you permission to pause, more wisdom that says doing nothing is sometimes doing everything, more teachings that honor both action and stillness, subscribe to Wisdom Forgotten. We're building a community here of people who understand that the space between is where the magic actually lives. Leave a comment and tell me, where will you create Ma this week? What empty space are you committing to building into your life? I read every single comment. Your practice inspires others who are struggling with the same constant overwhelm. Your willingness to pause gives them permission to pause too. And if someone you love is burnt out from constant doing, drowning in the tyranny of the filled moment, trying to optimize and maximize every second, and slowly dying from the exhaustion of it all, share this video with them. Not as one more thing on their endless list, but as permission. Permission to pause, permission to create space, permission to wield emptiness as their greatest power instead of their deepest fear. The tea master understood something we forgot. The pause after pouring is where you actually taste the tea, not in the constant pouring, in the space between. Your life is exactly the same. The meaning isn't in the constant activity, it's in the Ma, the space between activities where you actually experience what just happened, where insights emerge that got drowned out by noise, where you remember why you're doing any of this in the first place. So starting today, create Ma, one 60-second morning pause, one 3-second gap in conversation, one purposeless walk, one empty hour in your week. Start small, but start, because the space you create today becomes the life you actually want to live tomorrow. The power isn't in filling every moment, it's in knowing when to pause, when to create space, when to allow Ma. And in that allowance, everything changes. Everything. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, pause, create space, wield emptiness, and discover that what you've been desperately seeking in all that constant activity has been waiting for you in the silence all along.